So, hello everyone, my name is Sjöholm, I work for the Volvo Group, and I'm super grateful to get this opportunity to speak to you on the Data Innovation Summit 2020. What I would like to try to offer you today is a perspective on how I see the tools discussed here in this summit actually can help companies addressing one of the key challenges and also perhaps one of the key frustration points people are having inside most organizations. And I hope this will be a perspective that you can bring with you, no matter if you are a leader or a change agent working inside of an organization trying to promote the tools, or if you are a consultant trying to help companies to self-help themselves. So what is then this problem I'm talking about? You see, when you're selling things, essentially what you're selling is the result of a value stream. And into this value stream you have different activities, competence, capital, intellectual properties, and so forth and so on. But what a company do is, the way we organize ourselves around is usually we tend to chop it up. So we divide it into compartments or wagons. And we say that, okay, you have a purchasing organization, a logistics organization, manufacturing, development, and so forth and so on. And we do this for good reasons, because we want to leverage the scale of a plant or a logistics flow, or we want to really tap into a competence pool of certain individuals with a certain competence so they can learn and develop together. So good reasons why we do it. But the issue we're getting is that in between those compartments that you build up, you get this area where responsibilities, interdependency, and so forth and so on can become a little bit unclear. So many ways of describing this issue. I mean, sometimes we talk about cross-functional work, we talk about working end-to-end, but I think a very nice way and a way easy to remember actually is the way my boss Christina Möller talks about it. She calls it gray zones. So what are gray zones then? So a gray zone is, if we take an example, imagine you have your purchasing department. They want to do a fantastic job, really going to focus on the things that they see and they think they can influence and deliver upon, which is perhaps material cost level, delivery precision, quality, and so forth and so on. The consequence of the decision they take will obviously influence the logistics function with the distance to the supplier and the variability, which in turn, of course, also will influences the manufacturing side. If you say that you have a poor quality on the product, maybe you need to do a lot of rework inside of the plant, killing efficiency. Maybe you will have other issues also, perhaps connected to, let's say, delays of delivery and so forth and so on. Then you can continue upwards, and then you meet the salesperson who's going to interface also your end customer. And perhaps that end customer did not only choose you because you have a fantastic product, maybe they choose you also because they know they can trust your delivery, they know they can trust your aftermarket, a lot of other things. Now, depending on the supplier we shows back here, you will directly see that it's going to have a tremendous impact throughout the complete value chain. But it's very unclear perhaps for the purchasing department exactly how that's going to look like. So if you are good at doing this one, obviously that will have a tremendous positive impact on both the customer experience but also the cost and capital situation of your company. If you're poor at doing it, it's vice versa. Now, coming back to what I said before also, it's also a big frustration point. To be honest, when you come home and you talk with your husband or your wife or your friends and perhaps other colleagues, and you discuss what is not working in your organization, I bet you 80% of the time, you're probably not talking about your own performance or maybe your organization directly connected to you. But I bet you a lot of the times you're actually talking about other departments. I mean, they don't see the same picture, you're not working with according to the same target, they only focus on their internal performance, their strategy is not taking into account this and that. So there's a lot of frustration connected to it. And I understand it. I mean, think about it yourself. I mean, you're driving this initiative you think is super good for the company and the customers, but you're getting stuck on trying to convince people to let go of their internal KPIs or strategy or whatever it might be, instead of talking what's good for the company. And that frustration is really a killer for engagement, and that's a dangerous thing, because engagement is the number one fuel your employees need to engage in new business opportunities or in an efficient and timely way address problems in your organization. And if you lose that engagement, I bet you in the long run you're not going to have a very profitable company. So how do you go about addressing this gray zone and working end-to-end and cross-functional? I think there's many different ways of talking about it. This is a data innovation summit. It's a rather short talk, so I greatly simplify it into the PowerPoint mode. We talk about three things: culture, time, and information. Now, culture, I put in brackets here. This is a data innovation summit, so we leave that behind. But time and information, I hope you directly can see that these are the things we usually talk about, that the tools we're discussing here actually can help us with. Now, time, you need it because if you're going to engage someone and talk with someone collaborating around a problem or convince them about something, you need to be able to prepare and you have time to actually engage in a discussion. You also actually have to have time in your calendar actually to allow other people to come to you, so you can actually, in a good and active way, listen into things, not just tick off a box and say, okay, I had a meeting, I said no because the budget is not there, or the strategy is saying something else, but really understanding the problem from a business point of view and collaborate around it. And we know we can free up time with the tools we discuss here, RPA, BI, whatever it might be. It's one of the key things we usually discuss. Information, I think it's perhaps the thing most people in this summit is passionate about. Is obvious. I mean, that's the thing we see that we can use with a BI solution. You have lumps of data hanging there and sitting there, and then thanks to a good setup with some smart tools, we can really create transparency on that data and create information we can act on. But I like to talk about it also from a different perspective, because it's about how we consume information. Now, if I want to convince someone, of course I can put it into a PowerPoint with a lot of nice graphs and things like that. But actually the best thing to convince a person about something is actually let them touch it and feel it themselves. So why not just put it into a BI solution, let them play with it for themselves, and let them find their own way to the truth. Bet you it will convince them, and I bet sometimes they will actually be more convinced about it than you are. So I think it's a super strong way of addressing it. So I hope I've been able to share a good perspective here on the business problem and the frustration point for many people. And I also hope I've been able to give an idea of how you can see the tools supporting us in addressing that frustration point and business issue. What I'd like to do with you now is to talk a little bit of how we've done the journey within finance, how we talk about it, and the implications it has on the roles, and how we really describe that for the finance community then. I love this picture. I think it's really good to help people to get into, give them a little bit of a perspective on the change we're discussing here. These are called calculators, and it's not the machine in front of the people here, it's actually their job role. So what they're doing is they are essentially getting data points, information numbers, and they get expectations or computations to be done, calculate it, and send it off, hence the name calculators. Now, I'm a finance person, so what I see here is really a big Excel sheet. Every one of them is essentially a bunch of cells, then with a logic attached to it, and off the number goes. I think this helps you to see and paint a picture for the absolutely fantastic journey that we had within finance in the last, let's say, 3 decades. And it's really driven by the tools, PC, Excel, SAP, many other type of systems. And really what it has done is it has changed a lot when it comes to the role we're having within finance. It's of course driven out a lot of efficiency. I mean, you don't have rooms of calculators anymore. You have an Excel sheet or other systems. And of course also what we can offer, the product or the service we can offer, has completely changed. It's not any longer annual closing or quarterly closing. You have it monthly. You get it much more timely. And you can also combine data from finance with, let's say, quality or production or other things, and put a business context to things. And that has really changed the requirement on the role. It's not longer the same competence and profile on people doing that combination and doing that communication. We also even changed the name of it and invented new roles, and we call it business controller or business analyst. I read somewhere that between the beginning of 80s up until now, globally in the world, in all companies and so on, we have added something like 2 million positions of business analyst and business controller and similar things. Now then, when I talk with my business controller and they hear things like BI, RPA and so forth, and we talk about the future, I'm telling them it's going to be exactly the same thing as a journey you've been through. It's just that it's new tools with new names. It's the BI, machine learning and RPA, and we need to learn them in the same way as we learned the previous ones. And the expectation on the changes will be the same also. We will of course be driving out efficiency in many areas in the same way as we saw the calculators to a big extent go. We will also have completely new offers. Instead of perhaps serving on a gold plate a PowerPoint presentation after hard manual labor through Excel and so forth, maybe we put it into a BI solution and give it to the responsible people or the manager and let them consume the information when they need it and what information they need. But I think the biggest challenge, of course, also will be that the role will change and the expectation of the changes. If you previously became very good at combining, let's say, production data with financial data inside of a plant, and you create a very good understanding of what's happening inside of the walls of the plant, the expectations here will be to step out of that and really look into the end-to-end and the gray zone and see how you're influenced by other functions and how you actually are influencing other functions then. So how do we go then about driving this change? What is the logic and approach we're having? I think the number one thing is that we don't see this as a big project. We don't see a central function driving it. We really want it to be a culture journey out in the organization where we have really people seeing the business problem in front of them, also developing the tools to resolve them. And I think the key thing for us here has really been about having strong, engaged leaders, knowing about the tool, developing itself, and really showing that it's possible. And I can mention names like Karin Svan, my previous manager, Erika Varosi, and other people who's been super good at just stepping into themselves and engaged other people by showing it is possible. And then you have change agent out in the local organizations who can show the people sitting there with the problems they are having, I mean, okay, this is the way we can go about it, we can develop it in this way, and we can apply it for that problem, and they see all the improvements coming out of it, which convinces them then to try and see if they can also do the same thing. Now, the trick for making this happen and spreading it inside of an organization is really that the tool needs to be simple and fit for purpose. Finance people is not in general super good at doing programming, and if you want the finance people really to start using this tool, it needs to be rather simple and straightforward. And that depends, of course, on the challenge we have. The challenge usually within business controlling is that you combine data from different sources. So really having a tool that supports you in that is important. I think that's why ClickSense has become rather popular among the people here, thanks to the associative engine that really supports you in doing it in a good way. But of course, depending on the role you're having and the challenge you're having, different tools might be of different interest. Now, the reason why we drive it as a culture journey and we want a simple tool and really push it out in the rest of the organization is because we believe that locally you understand the problem and locally you have a lot of ideas of possible solutions. And instead of saying that, okay, let's develop smart solutions on top for that specific problem with that specific design asking for or answering those specific questions, let's step into the innovative power of the complete business control community and let's see what comes out when you do that. And then you need to focus on data instead of solutions. The solution is just a tool to work with the data and information. So really the perspective here is to come to a point where we see data as a gold mine for finding and addressing different type of problems or opportunities. So then of course the key question comes is what does it mean for me? How do we talk about the expectations moving into the future with the new tools and all the changes that we foresee on the role? I think it's really about, to begin with, how you see the work being done today. I think in general there's a high frustration point that we spend so much time in actually just working with the data in itself. So the carrot is really to say that, but if we can do this change journey, we can take away that and instead focus on the things that most business controller finds interesting, which is really working on the business side of things. But if you want to do that, you need to learn about the tools, you need to develop your data literacy and your system competences. And that of course can be a challenge, and then of course we're coming back to how easy is it to do that. But you need to have the curiosity to do it, and it's really going to be about you taking a step into something and trying something that's perhaps new for you then. So being a bit curious helps a lot. We expect the finance competence to be the same. We don't say is it really that part of the role will change. That's still core of a finance function, and it's really why you are in a seat at the table, why you are there and contributing to a management team. But what we want you to develop further is the business competence. And this is important because if we say that what we want you to do is to step into the gray zone, look more end-to-end beyond the walls of your current organization, if you want to do that in an efficient way, it helps a lot if you understand more of their businesses. So we really want to encourage developing the business competences. Then of course you might have the perfect tool, the perfect analysis, very nice and pretty data, but in the end it's going to be about how you engage people. And if you want to go across the gray zone and build a bridge across it and engage someone in another organization, you probably need to be rather good at it if you want to do it in an efficient way. Because the challenge you're going to meet there is sometimes you actually have to convince them to sacrifice their own internal performance indicators or deviate from the strategy for the good of the company or the customer. And vice versa, sometimes actually someone will build a bridge across to you and will ask you to do the same thing. And you then need to take it back to your management team and say, okay, hey guys, I mean, of course this will have a negative influence on that KPI, but it's super important and super strong for the people on the sales side or development side or whatever it might be. And then you need to have a strong interpersonal skill again then. So, in my mind, I think it's obvious that it's really a lot of gold inside of the gray zones. And I think it's going to be, at least in the Volvo Group and many other companies, really a key area for many to focus in the coming years. I think we become really good at actually working inside of different functions. But if you want to be a very competitive and successful company going forward, it will be about leveraging the tool we're discussing here and really stepping into the gray zone, address and finding the opportunities we have there. I hope this sharing has been good for you. I hope you can bring this perspective with you. Again, no matter if you want to drive change inside of your organization or if you want to find a nice sales pitch as a consultant helping a company to self-help themselves. I'm a little bit disappointed, of course, we cannot meet face to face, because really what I would like to do is engage in a discussion regarding and listening to a little bit of what you have to share and learn from that. So please feel free to contact me on LinkedIn and any other social media and just come back and let's take a meeting, a phone call or something else and discuss it then. So again, thank you very much for listening in. I hope everyone stay safe in this chaotic times, and I hope everyone also have a very engaged Data Innovation Summit 2020. Take care.